Hey everybody, Chris here. Welcome back to another episode of Woodmere State Revival. We're down at the house this weekend trying to finish up things at the pool. As you've seen in past videos, we've done all sorts of plumbing repairs, wall repairs, plastering, tile work, grouting, all sorts of things to try to get that pool ready for paint. Because as soon as it's ready for paint, we're going to get that done and then fill it up with water. Well, this is the weekend that we're going to put the paint on the pool. So today we've got to take care of a few little issues with some of the plaster, make a couple little small repairs in a few areas, and then do a lot of cleanup. We've got to pressure wash, we've got to sand some spots, we've got to acid wash. So we've got a bunch of things to do today to try to get ready to paint the pool tomorrow. We're going to try to get it cleaned up, cleaned out, and ready to go for tomorrow morning. You got to paint when it's cool. So we've got to get down here early tomorrow morning and start putting paint on the walls. So we're going to try to be up before daybreak, get down here, get set. As soon as we can see what we're doing, get down in there and get the pool painted. It's got to have 2 coats. So more than likely we're going to get 1 coat on, then the heat of the day is going to hit, and then we'll have to get the other coat on at the end of the day after everything is cooled down a little bit. So let me show you where we're starting out on the pool, and I'm also going to give you a quick tour of the house because a lot has changed since the last time we showed you guys what's going on with the house. So I'm standing on the front porch right now, and as you can see, the columns are back, and man, do they look great. We used a PVC product that will never rot, warp, peel, split. The guys put it together with construction adhesive and these little star screws. So we're going to have to come along and use special filler that's meant for PVC products and fill the screw holes. And then we'll go along and we'll caulk everything anywhere there's a little joint or anything like that that needs caulked, and then we'll have to paint them as well. The nice thing is because the product doesn't expand and contract and take on moisture like traditional wood, we're hoping to get 1 coat of paint on here and then not have to do anything with it for a long time. So the columns just look fantastic, and so happy to have those back in place. It just really makes the house. And if you look up the top here, you can see that the fascia board and the soffit vents and the dental molding have been installed all along the front of the porch. So that really looks fantastic. That really brings the whole place to life. And down at the other end here on the addition, they got the soffits constructed, and they got the soffit board and fascia and everything up here on the addition as well. And so that really trimmed it out nicely. Looks fantastic there. So let's take a walk over here and take a look in the pool, see where we're starting out here. Now if you remember last time, we've been working on plaster patching, and this week we came down and worked a little bit and actually sanded our plaster patches. So got them smoothed and evened out with the surface of the tile and the original plaster. Amber worked on that. And there were several cracks in the base of the pool here. And you can see where I took hydraulic cement and filled those in. Now, it looks like it was a huge crack, but that's just where I kind of, spread and smoothed the hydraulic cement. The cracks were just hairline, not structural. But you have to groove them out with a grinder and then fill in with the hydraulic cement. So anyways, it looks like a huge crack, but there was no sign of any structural issues. It just looked like a superficial thing. And there was no indication that any water or anything had been leaking out of these. But one of these things we wanted to take care of while we had the water out and everything exposed, that way we wouldn't take any chances on having any sort of slow leak or anything in the future. So we've got these taken care of, and it really just looked like something that happened after the pool was built. There was a little settling maybe. And again, very fine cracks, hairline that we want to go ahead and take care of. But if you look along the wall here, you can see how great that waterline tile looks. And now you can see also where we filled in with the plaster. And that goes right up against the base of the tile and over the edge of the tile and kind of locks them in. And so you won't have any issues with water getting in or around the tile. Won't have any issues with, feeling a lip or anything like that. If you remember, before I took the grinder to this, there was a pretty sharp lip in places. and that was because there was some spalling of the beam, and we had to grind that down. And then behind the tile in places there was spalling, and we had to grind that down and get back to solid concrete. And that left us with a pretty good lip, you know, from the existing plaster. So I took that diamond cup wheel and just went along here, and in between the original plaster and the tile, used that diamond cup wheel to kind of bevel and smooth all this. And then we came through with our plaster patch and went ahead and kind of made a nice transition from one to the other. Now eventually we would like to have the entire plaster surface removed, because it's got some age on it. I have no idea how long it's been here, if it's original or if it was replaced at some point, but we would like to replace the plaster with one of the new PebbleTech finishes. So we're going with paint this time around, and then we're going to start saving up some money. Hopefully in about 4 or 5 years, once this paint is starting to fail, we'll have a company come in who can professionally do one of those new PebbleTech finishes for us, where the has that little pebble, little granules in the plaster, and you can get it in all sorts of different colors. So it really gives some good options. But to have the entire pool replastered would be ideal. That way, you know, that's going to last 20 years or more. So that'll probably outlast us. And then we won't have to worry about painting it on a regular basis. But anyways, that's down the road. So for now, we're going to go ahead and paint. But you can see some of these areas of plaster work were bigger than others. You know, in this particular area, there was a lot of loose plaster. And so once I started grinding on it, you could hear the hollowness of the plaster. And that had to be taken down until we got back to solid, to where the adhesion between the plaster and the base concrete was good again. So those are much larger areas. But again, we just went through and we slicked it out with our plaster patch. And I mean, it feels great. It really does. Now, it's not as smooth as the original plaster. I'm not a professional plasterer, but once we get paint on it, I don't think you'll be able to tell the difference. Nobody's going to be feeling along the wall anyways, critiquing my work. At least I hope not. But as you can see, we've gone all the way around here and got everything looking really good. Now, the skimmers were the last things that we had to do. You can see this one's taped off and ready to be plastered. You can see where there's a gap there between the side of the skimmer and the trough that I cut in the concrete. But if you look up beyond that, you can see the concrete that was poured around the skimmer. And so this thing is encased in concrete. You know, we're not going to have any leaks. But the idea with the plaster is to seal, you know, between the edge of the skimmer and the edge of the original concrete, give it a nice slick, smooth surface. And I'll take hydraulic cement and go up here on the top and seal that in. And then we'll paint the skimmer trough with the same paint that we're painting the rest of the pool. So I got to do that one. I've already done the one on the other side over here. A little bit of water and debris down in the bottom, the deep end there. We got to pump that water out and then go ahead and shovel all that junk out of there. That's just been such a repetitive process. We've had to do that every step of the way. Because every time you plaster, grout, thin set, I mean, you're dropping stuff. Chunks of stuff is falling and then sticking to the pool. And then you got to go back in and clean that up. Amber was working on that last night. And this is what it looked like before she started. You know, just chunks of stuff everywhere. And then she was using the rotohammer and went all down through here, and you can see how nice and smooth and clean it is again. So she was doing a great job on that. But the other skimmer, last night I was able to go ahead and get the plaster on it. And so you can see what it's going to look like when it's finished. You see there's no gap between the skimmer and the sides now, and everything is you know, nice and slick and smooth, and there's a nice gentle ramp, you know, for the water to go over, and then it falls into the skimmer and gets filtered there. Again, on the top I'm going to do hydraulic cement. It was a little bit larger gap, and so I decided to do hydraulic cement versus plaster, just so I knew there was a good strong finish there. But I'll get that sanded down a little bit, and other than that, it just needs some paint. So that's where we're at on the pool. We're going to get cracking on this before the sun really gets on it and try to get as much done as we can. It's going to be hot again today, so we want to make sure we get as much work done before the heat of the day. Let me take you for a quick walk through the house, just to kind of show you where we're at there. Amber and her dad have really been knocking out a lot of painting, so it's looking really good inside the house. I helped them some last weekend. But during the week, when I've been at work, they've been down here just killing it, just working hard and getting everything painted. Here you can see in the living room, they used a shellac primer on the ceiling. And the reason they did that is there was some water staining. This is the only ceiling in the whole house that we saved. And we did it because of this beautiful detail that is in the center of the room here, and then this neat detail that runs around the perimeter of the room. So we wanted to save all that, so we saved this ceiling. But there were water stains around it, so the recommendation from several folks was to use shellac primer, because that's the only thing that will keep the water stains from bleeding through. So they rolled it with shellac primer, and then it's got one coat of ceiling white on it at this point. But you can see how beautiful that medallion is in the center there, and then there's that detail that runs around the outside, and then smaller medallions there in the corner. So we wanted to save that. So we, that was our one instruction to our contractors: make sure you don't tear this up. So they did a good job. They didn't mess it up, and it looks fantastic. Amber was playing with some paint samples over there. On the back of the house, you can see the office has, it's got 2 coats of ceiling white on it. So the ceilings look fantastic. The walls have been painted as well. Amber got the whole back of the house, the kitchen and the office and the family room painted the other day. So the walls are done here. They're ready for cabinets, ready for flooring, and ready for me to put up wainscoting and crown. So the kitchen's done. The dining room has been primed, the walls have been primed, the ceiling's been primed, and she's got 1 coat of ceiling white on here, so she's got to go back and do 1 more coat of ceiling white. The foyer, everything but this little piece right here has been primed. They're still working on some drywall, and that's where a return air duct is going to go. So they still have to do a little more work there. But up here, you can see the ceilings have been painted with the first coat of ceiling white. And she had fun getting up here and painting the ceiling here in the foyer. But again, she got it primed and got a coat of ceiling white on there, so that's looking fantastic as well. All right, let's take a walk back to the back of the house. So she got the hallway painted, got the bathroom done. We haven't done anything upstairs in the bonus room yet. You can see it's still just raw drywall, but that's because we haven't got our scaffold set up or anything like that, so we got to get that done. And unfortunately, the butler's pantry has not been finished yet. And the reason being is that electric panel is still in service because of some hiccups with changing over to our new electric service. So we're still using that as a temporary panel, and that's powering our new panels. But hopefully that's going to change. This week we're hoping to get the new transformer installed on the pole outside the house, and then get our new meter base and everything installed, and then all this junk can go away, and this can get drywalled, finished, painted, ready for cabinets. Out here you can see some air conditioning units. Those condensers are ready to be installed. We're hoping this week they're going to get that knocked out. And then the garage has just been tool storage. We did get our new garage door, which looks really good, and we used one of those newer style. It's kind of like a commercial door opener, where you don't have the track and the chain and all that stuff here in the center. So it kind of opens up the center of your garage. You still have the track that supports the garage door, but the rest of the works are up here on the front wall. So it's kind of out of the way. Pretty neat system. And just like everything else nowadays, it's all plugged into Wi-Fi, and you can control it with your cell phone. You don't have to keep an opener in the car anymore. So that's kind of cool. Back here we've got our closets under the stairs. Those are all going to get fitted with some custom doors. Those are going to look really cool. Back here the bathroom has been painted. So it's ready for me to come in and do the slate tile floor and install the cabinets and fixtures. So that's all looking good. Let's take a quick run through the upstairs so you can see the work that the Stansberry team has been getting done upstairs. Trying to get up here over this plastic without falling and breaking my rear end. We've been trying to protect the stairs and railing the best we can. We're going to refinish all this, but we didn't have to do any more work than we have to. So upstairs, again, this foyer has been painted out. Bedroom, the ceiling white's done. We don't have the, let me get some lights on here. Negative. We don't have the walls done yet. You can see we've been playing with some color samples, trying to figure out what we want to do. The bathroom is pretty well done except for the walls. Again, we've been playing with some color samples, trying to find a nice blue. As soon as we get that painted, then I'll be in here putting tile in. Cabinets are coming next week, so pressure's on. You know, we got to get our hardwoods delivered. Got to get those installed. We got to get all the tile down, get that installed. Grant's room's been painted out. Get some lights on in here. No, we can't. Not sure what's going on. Must be some issues. They must have some stuff turned off in the panel. But anyways, Reed's room has been painted. It's a nice gray, similar to what he has in our current house. And his bathroom's a light gray. So again, this is pretty much ready for tile. Ready for me to get in here and tile the floor and the showers. And then you see the AC guys have been here working. Duct work all over the place. I think they're almost done with the AC system. They got to set the outside units and then they'll be ready to fire them up. Can't wait for that. Again, Amber's got color on the walls here and has the ceiling painted. So she's pretty much done in here. Got to do a little touch up and then I'll be ready to come in and put some tile down. Okay, so now that you're all caught up on the inside of the house, I'm going to go outside and get to work. The inside is really going to move along once we get the AC operational. Right now, of course, we can't put any hardwood floors down. Got to get them acclimated to temperature and humidity, so that can't happen. And I really don't want to install cabinets for the same reason, and it just makes it a lot more comfortable when you're in here working on tile and everything else to have the AC system up and operational. So they're hoping to get all that installed, finished up this week, and get it tested, make sure everything's working. We're going to get the last of the dust knocked down, go through and vacuum the floors, make sure there's no more dusty stuff going to happen before they activate the system. Then we're going to get it fired up. Can't wait to have that operational. We're in the heat of the summer. You know, it's getting in the 80s and 90s, and upstairs, it's killer. You know, I mean, it just gets so hot upstairs. So it'll be great to have that AC system up and operational, but hopefully that'll happen this week. All right, I'm gonna go get to work on the pool. Amber and the boys will be down here in just a little bit, and we're gonna get cracking. All right, so I'm working on taking the forms off of the skimmers. Gotta go ahead and get them cleaned up and get the lids fitted. You can see we used plywood form there. And our concrete contractor came along and filled those up and gave it a nice finish. I'm gonna go ahead and pull those off and see what everything looks like underneath. All right, there we go. The form boards are off and the duct tape is peeled off of the skimmer lid flange there. I still got a little more cleanup to do around the skimmer flange. Peel the rest of that tape and stuff off of there, but that turned out great. One little tiny void over here on the edge, but the rest of it is poured nice and solid. And we acid etched the original concrete block and concrete, so we got a really good bond between the new concrete and the old. So we should not have any issues with leaks or settlement or anything else over time. You can see a couple of pipes had to actually go through the concrete, just the way things worked out. But the skimmer is totally encased in concrete and it's not going anywhere. We used rebar pinned to the old concrete block and concrete beam, and it was epoxied in place. And then we drove some rebar in the ground and wired all that together. And we've got our bonding wire, our copper bonding wire. It's tied around our deck jet line right there, but that'll get tied into all the rest of the bonding wire that gets run around the pool. The bonding grid helps to prevent electrical shock. It's not grounding, it's bonding. All electrical components like the pump and all the rest of the electronics and everything over here in the pump house all get hooked together, and then that stuff gets bonded to all the metal in the pool. So rebar, where we have our railing coming in over here, the diving board platform, the light niche, all those things get bonded together. That way there's no electric shock risk. There's always the potential, if there's some sort of malfunction in one of the pieces of pool equipment or something else, that there's a risk of electric shock. And so the bonding grid makes sure that there's no equipotential, or it creates an equipotential situation where everything is equal. You know, the problem you run into is when you have higher electric current flowing into one part of the pool, you know, through a faulty piece of equipment, and the water is not bonded, or the rebar is not bonded, or the ladder is not bonded, you know, something happening like that, then there's a potential difference between those two things, and the current passes through the body and causes a hazardous situation, can even kill people. So that's why it's real important to do that. So we made sure that was set up on the new rebar that got set into the pool there for our skimmers. So that looks really, really good. We got to do a little cleanup, and other than that, it's ready to go. When we get ready to pour the patio around the outside of it, we'll put some Decafoam around there. That has a tear-off piece around the top and allows us to run a good bead of urethane caulk around that, which separates the concrete deck from the skimmer box, because you don't want the deck settling and pulling down on the skimmer box and then pulling that loose, and you don't want the pool moving up and down at all with, you know, rainy and wet seasons and having any sort of movement on the deck versus the skimmers. So that's why everything is separate. So when we put all the metal reinforcing and everything in there for the deck, that'll all get hooked to the ground, but not to the pool itself, or not to the skimmer boxes or skimmer concrete. Amber's here now, and she's using our roto hammer to remove all the residue and junk off the bottom of the pool, from all the mortar and the stone set and the grout and the plaster patch and all that stuff that's just been dripped down over there throughout the course of the repairs that we've done. So she's working on that, going to get that knocked out, and I'm starting over here on the other skimmer. I'm going to put in some hydraulic cement around the top of the skimmer and go ahead and get that thing sealed in and ready for plaster. All right, so I just got done grinding down the cracks that I filled in the other day with hydraulic cement. As I mentioned, the crack was really small, and it was even smaller than that. It was just a hairline, but then I used a masonry wheel on the grinder and ground it out so that I could cram some hydraulic cement down in there. But I just got done grinding all the excess off and leaving the rest of it flush with the surface of the pool. So now we can just paint right over it. We've got plenty of hydraulic cement down in the cracks, sealing it up. Should not cause us any more problems. But man, it made a huge dust cloud, so I got my respirator on, face shield, Tyvek suit, all that sort of stuff, just to try to keep that stuff off of me. I got down here earlier, cleaned up a lot of that junk, bits of plaster and tile and stuff laying down in there. And now I'm getting ready to go all the way around the edge of the pool with the grinder and just knock down any rough spots along the edge here where people will put their feet when they're kind of hanging off the deep end wall here. I got both of the skimmers plastered and got some hydraulic cement in around the top of the skimmers on both sides here. That turned out great. Just gotta let them dry. But yeah, it turned out really nice. I'll untape them once everything's all cured, and we'll give it a light sanding. It'll be ready for paint. One on the other side looks about the same. Had to fix a few areas of loose plaster. I went around all of our new plaster work and tapped, and found a couple areas that had not bonded correctly. Even though we used our bonding slurry and everything else, we still had a few areas that didn't bond correctly. So went ahead and chipped them out, mixed up some more bonding slurry, mixed up some more plaster, and went ahead and patched them in. Okay, so as you can see, I'm still in my sweatsuit here. I'm gonna get back to work, get some more of this stuff ground down. I'm ready to, almost ready to power wash. Then we'll be ready to acid wash. Then we'll be ready to TSP wash. And then we'll be ready for paint. So excited to get that done. So I'm gonna get back to grinding. Hopefully we can get the rest of that knocked out this evening and start painting first thing tomorrow morning. All right, I just finished going around the entire base of the wall here with the grinder and smoothed down all the old concrete and old plaster. Anywhere where people might put their feet, I wanted to make sure that it was smooth. At some point again, we'd love to have this whole interior of the pool replastered, because the bottom is basically just concrete with paint on it. It doesn't look like it was ever plastered, which is interesting. The side walls were, but the whole base of the pool looks like it was just concrete painted. So, you know, a lot of times nowadays, if your plaster is failing and your pool's leaking, people will paint the inside of the pool, but it looks like this one was painted from the very beginning. Otherwise, they would have plastered, you know, the entire interior and not just the walls. But anyways, one of these days, again, we'll get some of that PebbleTech sprayed in here, and man, that'll look great. But in the meantime, we'll keep it painted. Make sure our water stay nice and our walls stay nice and watertight. But made it all the way around here, got it all ground down, looking good, nice and smooth. Made a huge cloud of dust. Thankfully, I had my Tyvek suit on, my respirator. Otherwise, I would have been hurting. Would have been covered in that nasty stuff. But we're just about ready here. I think next step, we're going to take the shop vac and vacuum out the entire pool, get all the dust and everything out of it. And then we're going to hit it with the hose and hit it with the pressure washer. Get all that stuff cleaned out and nice and spick and span. And then it'll be acid time. And once we spray the muriatic acid on there, it will etch all of the concrete and the old paint and everything. And that way we'll get good adherence with the new paint. And after we do that, then we'll use the TSP, which will actually help to neutralize the acid, make sure that the concrete's not too acidic when we go to put our acrylic paint back on there. So we've got a process to take out. You know, it'll probably take us several hours to get all that knocked out. But thankfully, most of the nasty work is done at this point, the grinding and the scraping and all that stuff. Pretty much done at this point, so now it's just time to pressure wash and then hit it with the different chemicals, get the entire pool nice and spick and span. We're also going to run a bead of urethane caulk between the waterline tile and the coping. And we'll use that to seal that area off to make sure that there's an expansion joint there, so that dissimilar materials can expand and contract with the temperature extremes, but also it'll keep water from going in behind our tile and under our coping to make sure that, especially during the winter time, it can't start popping that stuff loose. So we're on that bead of urethane caulk, and then we're ready to take down our scaffold. And that's exciting, because that stuff has been up there for over a year. You know, we put it up last year in hopes that we were going to get the pool knocked out and open last year, but yeah, as you know, that didn't happen. So looking forward to taking the scaffolding down. It's been a long time since we've seen this pool without it. So we got a bunch of stuff to do. We're going to break for dinner, and then we'll be back here in a little bit to try to get the rest of it taken care of before it gets dark. All right, so I just got done vacuuming the shallow end, getting a lot of the dust and stuff out of here. And while I was working on that, Amber started working on taping. Woohoo! She's running masking tape all the way around the top of the waterline tile. Reason being is there's a gap there. You can see it in between the tile and the coping. And we got to fill that in with a polyurethane caulk. That's what I was talking about earlier, that'll keep the water out and protect the tile, keep water from getting back there and freezing and popping the tile loose, and also acts as an expansion joint between the coping and the tile. That way one doesn't heat and expand more than the other and pop the other loose. So we got to run a bead of caulk around there, and then we're going to take down our scaffolding.
Woohoo!
It'd be great to see that gone, won't it, hon?
Well, yes, because I remember when we put this up last spring.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, it was only going for a day or two.
Yeah, we're just going to get it up and knock out the work real quick, and then we were going to use the pool last year. But yeah, that didn't happen. It's going to happen this year, though, right?
Yes.
Whoop whoop.
Tomorrow.
All right, I'm going to get to caulking. Stop talking and get caulking, right?
Don't say that too fast.
Funny. All right, so we got 2 tubes of the polyurethane caulk applied. Amber went through, as you saw a minute ago, and put the masking tape around the top. And then as we laid the bead down, then we came back and smoothed it with my finger. And then now, after letting it set for a minute, she's coming through and peeling it off. It looks really nice. barely tell. The gray color blends in nicely with the coping. What do you think, hon?
Looks good.
Stuff's a mess, isn't it?
It is. Sticky.
The polyurethane caulk, it's got the consistency of like half melted peanut butter.
It even kind of smells like peanut butter.
Which is
Not
weird.
I mean, it's just a weird, it's a weird smell.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's supposed to do the job.
That's what's important.
Swimming Pool Steve says it's the best. We trust you, Swimming Pool Steve.
If it doesn't work, he can come replace it.
Or make a donation to our project fund for that little plug. All right, keep up the great work, hon. It's getting dark. We gotta try to get this caulk done.
All right, so nighttime is upon us. We are still working. Chris is doing a nice job caulking.
Thanks, hon. Just fun to work with.
Yeah, it's not at all. I think the worst part is just it's real sticky.
Yeah. Not too bad if you can just kind of leave it like this. But
Yeah.
having to drag your finger through it. Stuff will come off sometime next month.
So Chris has been caulking and then going back through and dragging his finger across it to smooth it out, and then I have been going back behind him and taking the tape off. That seems to be a pretty good process.
Good system.
Yeah. Guess what? You're out of the deep end.
Yay.
I think that might have been our last project on the scaffolding.
I'm not going to miss it.
Not at all.
But it sure has come in handy. There people question our sanity when we put it together with boards and screws, but
Well, I questioned it.
it worked.
It has. All right, well, we only have, what, 20, maybe 35 feet to go?
Yep.
Yay.
All right, so we got the last of the caulk on above the waterline tile, and it turned out really great. It is dark, and kind of limited our ability to get it done, but we got the light out. We got a little cleanup to do underneath the coping there, not a big deal. Get that tomorrow, but the masking tape did a great job keeping it off of the waterline tile. So we got that done. Now it's time to sand the steps. I thought I was ready to wash down the pool, and I was talking to Amber, and she said the texture on the stairs is a little bit rough, so she wanted me to go ahead and sand the top two stairs where people might be sitting, just in case you know, the paint doesn't knock the texture down enough. We don't want people to get their bathing suits picked and that sort of thing, or little kids soft skin scratched, you know, so on and so forth. So the top three steps are going to get a bit of a sanding. So I'm going to go get the electric sander and fire that up, and then I'll wash the pool. So I'm wrapping up here for the night. It's 5 minutes till midnight, so I figure it'd be a good time to quit. My neighbor's probably not real happy about the pressure washer running at midnight. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the evening. Just got all the tools and everything carried into the house. Got about half the pool pressure washed, and did it by headlight and by work light, and got a lot of loose paint off and a bunch of dirt and, you know, plaster residue and everything else was all washing off. So it should give us a real good surface for tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be down early. We're going to try to get an early start and get the pressure washing finished, and then we'll do the acid wash and the TSP wash, and then we'll get rid of all the ponding of water, and, you know, maybe we'll use the shop vac to suck that out, leaf blower to blow it out, you know, whatever we got to do. So we don't want any standing water, any puddles or anything like that. But the acrylic's actually made so you can go over damp concrete with it. So it's not a huge deal for us to get the concrete dry. We just got to make sure that there's no water puddling. So we'll work on that first thing tomorrow morning. I'm gonna go home and shower up and get some sleep. See you tomorrow.